What do you get when you mix black magic, hot rods, a secret missile program, and one particularly weird teen boy? Find out on this episode of the Buena Vista Boys. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jason. I'm here with my very good friend, Matt.
What's up?
We are the Buena Vista Boys, and today we're going to be going through one of the weirdest movies that I've seen in recent memory. And I've seen a lot of movies because I just work from home all day, right? So I don't really do much. I put on a movie and then you work and you pretend that you can, earn a paycheck.
If you want a real, if you're too scared of werewolf movies, but you still want to see a man become a dog.
Yeah. Then watch this movie. The movie we're watching today is The Shaggy Dog. Now, I get the Shaggy Dog confused with the Shaggy DA. And we were planning this. I'm like, oh, yeah, the Shaggy Dog sounds great. And you're like, well, are you the Shaggy Dog or the Shaggy DA? Because I interchanged them. And in my mind, they're interchangeable because of the same stupid thing. But they're not.
Because it's the same character. It's
right.
Just what ended up happening is like after he became a dog the first time, he decided, I need to become a lawyer.
That's right. Well, it's very much like Gremlins, where you watch Gremlins 2 and suddenly he's moved. He's
an
graduated.
architect.
Yeah, it's fine, man. Gremlins 3 is going to be he's a senator probably.
He's an astronaut. His son became an astronaut.
That's right.
And he built the space shuttle. Like he architected the space shuttle.
That's right. And he built a Mogwai pod into the thing. This is a whole thing. We could just do that.
Well, because it's like, because in the first movie, they're like, okay, well, he's got to be doing something, right? He's not living at home anymore. Time has passed.
Yeah.
Well, he had a cup of pencils in the first movie.
And he liked to draw. So instead of being a comic book artist, he's an architect.
He's an architect in this giant building.
But yeah, that's the movie. It's The Shaggy Dog. So kind of going to run through the movie. Not really plot point by plot point, but, just enough to get a lot of information. Got some clips to play. We're going to take a break. At the end of that, or in the next segment, we're going to be going through a bunch of facts that we learned about the show, about the movie, which I'm looking forward to the most. That's one thing that fascinates me a lot, especially about these older movies, older Disney movies specifically, is the little dots that are connected.
Yeah.
Even production to production, but also from the movie segment to the parks.
Yeah.
And you got to get kind of that Imagineer crossover and whatever, because this was made in 1959 is released. So the parks were already open. But even before then, you have those people that are getting pulled from the studios to work on Disneyland.
Well, yeah, it's like Exitencio shows up in this, right? His name's on there.
Paul Frees is in there. So we have a lot of information to go through. So why don't we go ahead and get started running through The Shaggy Dog. We're going to start with a bit of history first about the story. The film, The Shaggy Dog, is based off of the 1923 novel, The Hound of Florence, by the Austro-Hungarian author Felix Salten. The plot of the book differs in most respects from the film. The Hound of Florence is set in early 18th century Austria and Italy. The young teen Lucas Grassi has lost his parents and lives in Vienna in poverty and desperately wants to return to Italy to study art. By magic, of course, because that's the only time anything happens in books, his wish is granted. However, every other day he must take the form of a dog. So he can go home, but he has to turn into a dog every other day. The best part is that dog happens to belong to the Archduke Ludwig, and alternating daily between human and canine form, he travels from Vienna to Florence, where he has to lead a very unique double life.
He's like clocking in, clocking out.
Oh, time to be a dog. The book is unique in that it's 237 pages of continuous story. There's no chapter break, so it's a 230-page chapter, basically. The Hound of Florence was Salteen's second most popular book, with the #1 spot being taken by the novel that became the basis for the Disney cartoon Bambi.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so this man not only had an affinity for writing about animals, but Walt was like, yep, you know what? I love your writing style and your weird imagination. Let's go ahead and just make everything you've ever done into a movie.
He's like the 2 animal version of Stephen King. He wrote right. 2 real bangers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, this film has some tentpole Disney stars in it. We have Wilson Daniels, who's the father of the main character. Wilson Daniels is played by the amazing Fred McMurray, who we'll end up seeing in like 6 or 7 more Disney films after this. Like the guy was just a staple across time.
Oh, yeah.
Good too, man.
He was a father, an inventor. He did all sorts of stuff.
Boy Scout master. Now, Wilson is the father of Wilby, who's the main character, played by Tommy Kirk, who was just previous to this in Old Yeller. We have the face of the Mickey Mouse Club in her first movie role, Miss Annette Funicello, who was probably 15 or 16 in this movie.
Yeah, I think she was 16.
The mom is played by Jean Hagen, who was in Singing in the Rain, which I didn't know. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen Singing in the Rain.
Me either. So we're not going to have anything clever to say about that.
No, like remember when Jean Hagen pulled this face in Singing in the Rain? Nope.
Remember when a man sang about rain?
The only thing I know about Singing in the Rain is just the movie poster. And, you know, that's it. I mean, I don't know anything else about it.
Yeah, what is it? The Great Movie Ride is all I know about Singing in the Rain.
I blocked that whole experience out in my head. The Great Movie Ride was the worst. Absolutely the worst. I hated it.
I've never actually been on it. I've only seen it through POV videos. So
terrible. That's the only way to watch a ride through of that ride. That's the only way to experience that ride is at home on the couch watching a POV video. Yeah. It's like watching live sports. I would rather just watch it on TV at home. Don't go to the stadium. Don't go to the place. Stay at home. Be comfortable.
So like, you know, those Wild West shows they do at like Knott's Berry Farm and stuff?
Yeah.
Like it's like one of those, but you can't leave.
Yes, exactly. That's the feeling that I got too, where it's like people are coming on and off and people are attacking I just don't want to do it. I just want to go somewhere else. The film, The Shaggy Dog, opens with a very jazzy song and one of the more unique set of opening credits I've seen in a while, actually, even, you know, now in 2024. A shaggy dog made from pieces of shag carpet bounds across the screen in and out of the credits. It's very cute, very likable. It sets you kind of up for this is a very much a lighthearted movie, which is also kind of weird because if I'm not mistaken, it was sort of marketed as almost a horror movie.
Yeah.
It was like a spooky thing where it's like, oh, don't be scared.
Yeah, because you had like the magic ring and the whole idea of being cursed was a big deal.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think that when they cut the kind of the teasers in the trailer for it, it was a little bit more mysterious than it was like lighthearted.
Yeah, I feel like when they made the movie, it was lighthearted and then marketing got a hold of it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you know what's popular with those dang kids now? Scary
right now,
stuff.
Yeah. What is it? Tommy Kirk and the guy who plays Buzz, Tim Considine.
Okay.
Is that it?
Sure.
Because they had just come off of being the Hardy Boys. So the Hardy Boys were really big, you know, mysteries, going into caves and finding
scary.
treasure was a big deal. So I can see why they would try to lean into this is a mystery.
Yeah, that's right. A mystery that we know about.
Yeah.
Anyway, the carpet dog bounds around, knocks a few names around from the credits, and it's the names get jumbled. It's very effective and it looks very cute. It's a great set of opening credits.
Yeah.
On the first watch through, I picked out 2 specific credits that I thought were worth mentioning, and they're both under the heading of special titles. So I imagine those are the people in charge of animating not only the dog, but when the dog knocks over, you know, like the Fred McMurray's name and they kind of go everywhere or whatever.
Yeah.
One is the aforementioned Mr. X Atencio.
Oh, yeah.
Who famously wrote Grim Grinning Ghosts, and he did a whole bunch of stuff, right?
The Pirates music, right? He wrote Yo Ho, Yo Ho.
Yo Ho, that's right. The other credit under special titles is someone called T. He, which the letter T, period, and then he, H-E-E. Now, at first, I figured it was kind of like an Alan Smithy thing, you know, where there's a lot of B and C movies, I guess, where people don't want to be attached to something. They just put their name as Alan Smithy, and then that's
as the credits are going. And they're doing a stop motion mop. He's like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to be on this.
Yeah, I'm not into this. But no, this man was real. His full name was Thornton He, or T for short. T worked on Fantasia and the exhibits for the New York World's Fair, to name a few projects. So he was no slouch.
Man.
Yeah.
No, when you have the name Thornton, why are you not putting that out there?
I know, right? I mean, I wonder if it's because you have X Atencio and then right underneath it's T He. I wonder if that was really it. Because they're like, either X has his initial. Why can't I have mine?
No, I agree. Yeah. Also, if you're setting the titles for your own name, you want to go with the shortest one possible.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. So the credits end, and we open in the dining room of Wilson Daniels. Now, Wilson hates dogs, and this fact is established early on, not only even in the credits, but right after the credits, he's like arguing with the dog and telling him to get out of here or whatever.
Yeah.
Wilson's wife, Frida, is played by Jean Hagen, who tells Wilson that their oldest son, Wilby, is in the basement working on another one of his wacky science experiments. Now, here's a little bit of just kind of the opening. Wilson comes in, he sits down, he shoos the dog away, and he and Frida have a little conversation about his feelings on dogs.
Blast.
Yes, dear?
It's ridiculous of all the sickly sentimentality. Giving a medal to a dog.
Don't get the paper in the butter, dear.
Making a big hero out of him.
What'd he do?
He dragged a baby from a burning building. Now, who couldn't do that?
Now, don't upset yourself, Wilson.
Dogs. Yapping and snapping at a man's heels. Man's best friend. If I ever find the idiot who said that.
You must remember, sweet, that most people love dogs.
I suppose I'm some kind of a freak because I don't.
Well, it's nothing to be ashamed of, dear. Frankly, I think that dogs don't like mailmen because sometimes they bring bad news.
Already 3 minutes in, we get the fact that Wilson hates dogs, and he used to be a mailman.
Yes.
So he's reading the paper, he sees a dog get a medal, and he's like, what did he do? Drug a baby from a burning building. I mean, who couldn't do that?
I know, and I don't want to lose this fact. The reason we know he hates dogs is because we are told immediately by Paul Frees, who narrates the opening of this.
That's right. Yeah.
What I love, though, about that opening right away, it got me because the movie's in black and white, which movies at that time had started to be in color.
Mm-hmm.
It opens with him walking out onto the porch on clearly like what is a set, on a back lot. We'll get to that. And Paul Frees starts his narration, and it is giving amazing Twilight Zone vibes. Like, I'm loving this.
Okay, I can see that.
And yeah, and because it's like, if you ever watch like a Twilight Zone, like the one about the killer doll, right? Telly Savalas is killed by a doll.
Yeah.
It's just right away, because you have 30 minutes, you have to establish a character. You have to have a character be over the top. You're like, I hate dogs. You're like, you have to hammer it home. And so the whole opening just felt like a whole episode of the Twilight Zone, and I was locked in right away.
Nice. Well, Wilby's in the basement working on a science experiment. The house begins to shake, and we see that Wilby is in the process of making a missile interceptor. It looks like a big rocket to me, but they talk about the missile interceptor. What is going on? And I think it dawns on Wilson finally, oh, that's a missile. That's a rocket. Okay, what's going on? The family runs outside as the rocket fires, blasting through the roof of the house, blowing a hole in it as it takes to the sky and fades into the atmosphere. Classic stuff, kids in the 50s casually creating and launching rockets. Not a very big deal.
Well, yeah. I know, that's what I was thinking about that too. I'm like, yeah, you get those kits full of like radium.
Yeah, sure,
mercury.
Man. Yeah, why not? By this time, it's clear that Tommy looks like he could be a twin of Will Byers from Stranger Things, like uncannily so.
Yeah.
He's also a boy who could pass for 14 or 34. He has that look to him that you can never really get a bead on his age, depending on the angle that he shot from. Like, you could have told me this was shot over 5 years.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense, because he looks older in some scenes.
Yeah, and his hair is like nice and greasy, and like it's stuck up on one side. Like, I don't know if it was intentional, but he looks like a guy who spends a lot of time in a basement. Absolutely.
Yeah, he looks tired and just exhausted all the time. He's one of those genius kids that just like, I can't stop thinking about science or whatever.
Yeah, he needs some vitamin D bad.
Yeah. So as Wilby and his little brother Moochie, which is a weird nickname to give a child, but there you go.
Yeah.
They climb on the roof to help repair the damage of, that the rocket did. Wilby ends up taking a tumble off of the roof and falling to the ground. Now, I wanted to note a couple things here. One, the boys literally have rope tied around their waists and anchored to the chimney. And I'm watching this scene and I'm imagining the damage that would do to their internal organs if they fell off a 2-story house with just the rope cinched around their waist. But I guess, they were being safe. So, whatever.
1950s ingenuity is like, Just they didn't know anything about spines back then.
Oh, yeah.
So,
no, it's all squishy there. It's fine. It'll absorb the impact. Luckily for Wilby, he was on the first floor roof when he rolled off. Okay, so there's that. Second, I imagine there was a stunt double. It had to have been, but I don't know because, again, Wilby looks older than he really is. Because when he rolled off of that roof and fell onto the ground, it was a one-take shot. It was not a soft landing, and it looked like it hurt. Like I audibly went, ooh, because I thought it was looking like a blooper reel. It was weird.
No, and it was a perfect landing. And what I love is that no one around him cared that happened.
Right.
Buzz didn't care. Annette's character didn't care. Moochie was only worried because he destroyed the flowers his dad told him not to.
You ruined Pop's flowers. So as he stands up, a little hot rod pulls up, driven by Wilby's buddy, Buzz. And sitting next to Buzz is Allison, played by Annette Funicello. Buzz and Wilby exchange some words, and as they stand there, a new family moves into the house across the street, and with them, the new girl, Francesca, played by Miss Roberta Shore. So they just drive right up as these two boys are arguing.
Yeah, and Roberta was driving, right?
I think Roberta was driving. Yeah, so she's got to be 16 in this too. So they're all probably, 16.
Yeah.
The boys are instantly struck by the beauty of their new neighbor. And if you look carefully enough, you can see the pheromones floating around these two boys. Like they are just enamored with this girl.
They've got Annette Funicello sitting right there.
Yeah, they're like, Annette,
ground beef.
Yeah,
nothing.
She gets left on the curb, man. Francesca has a dog with her. It's a big, shaggy dog named Chiffon. And in fact, it's an old English sheepdog, and he's a big, woolly beast of an animal.
Oh, yeah.
The dog runs off, and the two boys, being the kind souls that they are, abandon Allison, who's still sitting in Buzz's car, and they return the dog to Francesca. Now, this whole time, Francesca's interacting with the dog. She's speaking French. So these two boys, they go, let's bring this dog back to the beautiful girl, and then we can get in. We can get in with her. So here's a little bit of that.
Yes?
We brought back your dog, the Mamselle's dog.
Yes, Stefano?
Deux jeunes gens.
Chiffon, qu'as-tu fait? Tu viens tout violent. Que puis-je faire pour vous?
Bring, dog, you. Him, me. We do this.
What is it, Francesca?
Chiffon ran away and these two nice Indian boys brought him back.
Indians this far east?
Oh, we're not Indian. I didn't know.
So they embarrass themselves because they don't think she speaks English.
Yes. Also, did she just say etouffee? Like,
I don't know.
Because if she did, she just told the dog that she's smothered.
Maybe. That might be it. Yeah, very weird. And then also to think that they're Indian boys. Yes. And then the dad, Indians this far east or west or whatever he said. Like just the whole thing is very, very 1950s. Where that would just normally pass as like, oh, of course you thought we were two Indian boys. We're very pale.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
There's just something about this movie, and maybe we'll see it in other Disney movies of this time.
Yeah,
there is just something where every single character is a little like a 1 foot out of reality of what is happening around them all the time.
Ah, yes,
right.
Yeah.
Like there's multiple characters in this movie where something is happening and they're either not reacting or their reaction is really panned down from like what a real person would act like. Like the dad is clearly looking at two young white gentlemen from this neighborhood. He's like, oh, Indians, huh?
Yeah. Well, and I immediately go, in like from India, but I think they mean Native Americans since it's 1959. Yeah. That's what I'm assuming that they mean. But either way, these two boys do not look either like they're from India or like they're Native Americans.
Yeah. And then they start speaking English.
Yeah. Like, oh no, it's everything's fine. And
nobody says, oh, they don't go, oh, you're English. Oh, okay. Like right. I understand they're trying to save some time here, but it's like that lack of like response from anyone makes this feel really alien in parts. Like, you're definitely not watching reality.
No, it's dated for sure. So Francesca invites the boys into the house and takes them on a tour of their home. Her dad, being the new curator of the museum, of course, has a bunch of old artifacts just laying around, right? These things are very, very priceless, you can imagine. They've clearly been looted and shipped around the world via the black market. At least that's what I want to believe in my headcanon, to be like, okay, this guy is just stealing stuff, dig it up from the desert somewhere. Oh, it's coming home with me. I don't care.
Remember that moment where Willoughby almost knocks that vase? It's either a vase or it's some sort of statue over, and she goes, "It's worth about, I'd say, $3,000." In his face. Ooh.
But it's here that we're introduced to the plot device, which is a painting of the member of the Borgias, the prominent Italian Renaissance family in the 1500s. Francesca tells Wilby and Buzz about how the Borgias use spells to shapeshift, and sitting next to the Borgia in the painting is a painting of a big shaggy sheepdog that looks suspiciously like Francesca's dog, Chiffon, and our little first bit of foreshadowing. Now, the eyes of the dog in the painting, I don't know if you noticed that, were very bizarrely human-like, and I imagine they were done on purpose, considering what happens to Wilby, but it was very odd. It was very unsettling. I didn't like it.
Oh,
at
that's
all.
interesting that you picked up on that. If I ever watch this again, I will definitely take a look.
Come on. Now, Francesca offers to take the boys on a guided tour through the museum because what teenager whose dad is the curator doesn't have that kind of pull to just unlock the museum? It's not even open yet. They're working on new stuff. Let's just go and hang out.
Yeah.
Buzz drives them all over, and the kids start checking out all the weird stuff like Egyptian sculptures and stuff like that. Buzz,
yeah. Can I spot right there? Only because there's something about that I was thinking about the second time I watched it. They were talking, so they front loaded all that stuff about the Borgias. Yeah. Right. But then he went in, like Willoughby went into that section. And he was like, I go in for more of the Egyptian stuff.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, that seems like a better plot device for this movie somehow than the Borgias.
I thought that was very odd as well. Like, maybe we're trying to learn about art history, or at least the Renaissance period. Maybe not art history, but maybe we're supposed to be taught something. But why not?
It just feels like, we are keyed up as a society to be like, there's already the curse of the mummy and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like there's something there where it's like the magic of some Egyptian curse makes more sense than some Bavarian queen's ring.
That I don't even know if I'm saying it properly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Buzz gets an idea and takes Francesca by the hand, effectively ditching Wilby, who is now left all alone to wander the closed museum by himself. Now, eventually, he runs into someone called Professor Plumcut, who's played by a man named Cecil Kellaway. The professor further cements the fact that the Borgias were a bunch of shape-shifting weirdos, which is cool and all, I guess. I mean, whatever. Wilby turns to go and knocks over a very precarious little end table full of old jewelry and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like a basket that you would have at a consignment shop.
Yeah,
right?
It's like, 2 for $5 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like all these old brooches that you just like pick up and that's neat. Yeah. And you throw it back in.
Now, we catch up with Wilby. He's downstairs in his basement cleaning up his science stuff, and that's punishment for launching a missile through his house. So his dad was like, look, get rid of all this stuff. He goes, get rid of all the animals, all the chemicals. You could bury the chemicals.
I love
what are we doing?
Bury the chemicals.
Which is very 1950. Just bury that stuff. It'll be fine.
Yeah, sure. Go throw it in a local reservoir.
It's just clean. It'll be, they'll clean up. And as he's cleaning up, he finds an old ring in the deep, deep cuff he has in his pant leg, which I guess he didn't feel walking all the way home from the museum.
Oh, yeah, because Buzz left him there.
Buzz and Francesca ditched him, so he had to walk home, and he walked home with a ring in the cuff of his pants.
And there's a big fella, too. Big ring.
Oh, yeah. It's a big ring with a big cuff, too. I don't know if you noticed that. Wilby then breaks the #1 rule about finding antique jewelry in your pant cuff. And he reads the inscription aloud. The ring has an inscription. He reads it not just once, but several times.
He makes a song out of it.
Yeah. The inscription is In Canis Corpore Transmuto, which, unknown to Wilby, means into a dog's body I change.
Okay, we got to make sure we're not holding any jewelry right now.
No, yeah.
We're all in a lot of trouble.
That's right. Camera cuts to Chiffon, who again is Francesca's dog, who's chilling in her house across the street, and the dog just disappears. Wilby begins to develop tufts of hair around his head and ears, and then suddenly he is the dog. Okay, and I buy that. I'm easy enough. You transmute into a dog, that's cool.
Sure.
But what happened to the real dog? What happened to Chiffon? Where does it go when Wilby transforms?
Yeah. See, I have so many questions.
I know.
Because it's like, do they merge? Like, is that what it is? Is this like, see, because there's no aspects of human besides the voice, right? So it's not like, what is it when the Saiyans do a fusion dance, right? It's not a mix of man dog.
Right. Right. It's the same.
So he becomes both.
Well, and why did this ring get tied to their dog? Like that other connection wasn't real. Like not real, but that connection wasn't really specified either. Why Chiffon?
It's like can only Bratislavian sheepdogs be magicked in this curse? Like just the closest sheepdog. It's literally the closest one to you.
Yeah,
is the one you'll turn into.
Wilby's the dog. Okay, he's in his own basement. He's the dog now, and apparently everything in Wilby's body changes except his vocal cords, which are still capable of human speech, and his brain, which is capable of complex human thought. So those two things totally not changed at all. Everything else completely changed.
Yes. And what I love is he doesn't change anything about his thought patterns either being a dog. It's like he still has all of the thoughts of a human.
Yeah.
He at no point accepts his dog body.
No, he's like, oh, all right, I'm a dog.
I know.
Now, he's understandably nervous considering his dad's well-known hatred towards dogs. So he goes to find the one friend he knew that would understand. Professor Plumcut, for some reason.
Yeah.
Not anybody else, just back to the museum to Professor Plumcut.
Yes.
And Wilby wastes 0.0 seconds in talking like a human to the professor, who just tells him that, he knew this would happen because he looked like a potential shapeshifter.
I know. Professor Plumcott should be arrested.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a menace. This guy is so untrustworthy. Like any man who turns around and immediately begins a conversation with a teenage boy who's now a dog.
And doesn't go like, hey, how did that happen? He's like, oh, of course he knew. Of course he knew. Makes no sense as to why the man who was thoroughly unfazed by the sight of a kid who is now a dog. Other than to say, I knew that would happen. Like, I'm really smart. Of course that would happen.
Yeah, that man is too dangerous to be walking around free.
Yeah. And now the puppeteering is pretty good at this point. So I guess we should break down real fast. There is a real dog, a real actor dog who's, does most of the dog stuff. But there's also a puppet, and I think there's a person in a suit as well. But in this scene specifically, it's a puppet, and I think it's pretty good, honestly. The puppeteering they have they do a really good job of it, because sometimes you're asking yourself, is that the dog or is that the puppet?
Yeah.
Because what they do is they don't leave the shot on the dog for too long if it's the puppet. It's like 2 or 3 seconds for your brain to see it, and then it cuts to the actor, and then, you're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Because weren't we talking about the fact that the reason some of the lines look so good when the dog is talking is because they actually recorded the dialogue to the dog's mouth moving?
Yeah. Yeah, they would do that. If the dog wouldn't move its mouth, they would give it beef jerky to gnaw on. Yeah. And then they would record the lines, to that.
Yeah, when I was watching it, like there are times when I know it had to have been that, because I'm like, this puppet is so good.
Yeah.
That there is, because it looks like a puppet. It definitely looks like it in scenes. And then when I read that, I was like, okay, that makes more sense, because this dog is 2024 good if it's a puppet.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of that comes down to the editing and the shots that the director chose.
Yeah.
And how long it stayed on that, because it doesn't let your mind start to wander over what's going on.
Yeah. And outside of its campiness, there is great work done to make this dog seem like he's really doing this. It really does look like a teen boy is running around as a dog. It's very believable. That's where they didn't skimp.
Absolutely. The professor and the dog have a full-on conversation. And in the moments between the dog talking, I was asking myself again, if the dog on the screen was real or a puppet. But after a couple seconds, you can kind of tell the difference between the dog and the puppet. But, that's because I think we're trained now in 2024. Like you said, we have 2024 brain to go like, okay, we understand. But in 59 or 60, you're like, what is going on? And it's here in this conversation that we learn that the shape-shifting happens randomly. You can't control it. You can't stop it. He's going to be a dog forever. And only an act of selfless bravery could fix it, which is very much like Isn't that Frozen? Isn't that the Frozen concept or a Brave? I mean, it's very Disney, very fairy tale, I should say.
He's going to have to jump in front of a sword for Moochie.
That's right, yeah. Now, Wilby goes home to the room he shares with his brother and readies himself for bed by doing all the stuff he normally does, like changing his gym jams, brushing his teeth, and using the bathroom. And apparently the real dog, whose name is Sam, was trained for all this and nailed this whole scene in one take.
No way.
That's what I heard. Yeah. So I found a couple of interviews on like DVD notes or whatever with a lot of the kid actors. And they're like, we kind of forgot that it was a real dog because it was so well trained. And in that scene specifically, the trainer showed the animal what to do, and then they just got it all. And they're like, oh, I guess, okay, that's it. That's it. The whole thing is one.
That's so cool.
Is one take. Also,
now I'll say, I'll say this. So in that scene, right?
Yeah.
Where because the dog, again, this is Willoughby not just going, hey, I'm a dog right now. I don't need to brush my teeth. It's okay. I think I can take a pass for one night, but he's putting on his PJs, right?
Yeah.
And he's doing all that. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, when he turned into a dog, he wasn't a dog in his clothes. Like his clothes didn't fall off of him. And then when he becomes a man later, spoilers, he has his clothes on again, right?
They get absorbed,
What if he'd had his PJs on and he became a man again? Would he have his clothes on and then his PJs over his clothes?
There's only one way to find out, and that's to write Shaggy Dog Part 3 and figure that out.
I spent way too much time worried about this.
Well, what I didn't understand is, the parts that he forgets that he's, maybe he forget, but like, I guess I was wondering why he was putting his friggin' pajamas on and brushing his teeth. First of all, you're a dog. That's your human toothbrush. That's disgusting. Yeah. Okay. Second of all, you don't need to put pajamas on. Did you forget? Because you're at a different height anyway. So you have to, I don't know, just there's a lot of effort to go through the same nighttime routine. But I guess as a kid in the 50s, that's what you're conditioned to do.
Well, and also for the audience. Yeah, right. Like a Shaggy Dog putting on pants is funny. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
And being when he's in the bathroom gargling, come on. That's
classic
too
stuff,
good.
Man. Well, and that brings me to this point is, I'm sure you mentioned, but maybe it didn't dawn on me the first time. The boys have a bathroom attached to their bedroom. Just baller status. Like,
yes,
that's crazy to me.
I thought about that too. I was like, oh my gosh, like they have this giant room. Yeah, they live together, but like you essentially have a Manhattan apartment for your bedroom. It's amazing.
Easily. Now, it's important to note just how nice their home is in general, right? 2 stories with a basement. Okay. So it's not in California, clearly. The kids have their own attached bathroom. Wilby's dad is a retired mailman. And somehow I felt important to note that and just kind of leave it alone. Like, this man made enough money being a retired mailman to afford this 2-story house with a basement and
big enough to build a rocket.
You build enough to build a rocket into and still retire young enough to look like he's in his 50s. You know what I mean? Did he get this job when he was 8 and put in his 20 years? And was like, I'm done. That's it. Give me my pension. The next morning, Moochie gets the full reveal that his brother is now a dog. And I got a little bit of that for you.
Oh, boy. How'd you get in here?
What do you mean I get here? I live here.
You talk just like Wilby.
I am Wilby.
No, you're a dog. Where you going?
Dog? Oh, it can't be true. No.
Do you think Papa let me keep you, Wilby?
Just shut up a minute, will you? Let me think.
I'll be good to you. Honest, I will. Boy, we'll have great times together.
Great times together? What are you talking about?
Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
I hope Pop won't shoot you.
Huh?
You know he swore the first time that he caught a dog in his house.
You two better be out of bed when I get up there and open that door.
Yipe, here he comes.
A couple things to note there. Moochie doesn't care. Like, I didn't really edit that at all. That's Moochie going, oh, how did you get in here? Man, we're going to have so much fun as you, my brother, the dog, permanently forever. That is, of course, unless our dad doesn't murder you. Never cared.
See, I love it. I love that he's so flexible. He's just on board with it. He's you know what? This isn't going to ruin Christmas. This will be fine.
I can't wait. It. Yeah. Well, and a side note, Moochie played Wilby's brother in Old Yeller. So the actor who played Moochie and the actor who played Wilby were brothers in Old Yeller before this. So same two actors talking about dogs. It's a theme.
Just these two just have a dog connection like through time.
Yeah. Despite his brother's warnings and his own knowledge of his father's disdain for dogs, Wilby heads downstairs for breakfast somehow and triggers his father's dog allergies, which everybody thinks is anxiety driven, but apparently it's not. So his father senses that there's a dog in the kitchen because he starts scratching and sniffing, sends his dad into the deep end, just way out. Wilson grabs his shotgun from the closet, chases Wilby in dog form out of the house, and fires the shotgun into the laundry that's hanging on the clothesline in their very, very residential area.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, very standard, normal stuff. Shooting at a dog. No cops were ever called. You know, your laundry's toast, but...
No, it's everyone in the neighborhood, again, seems like this is pretty standard for him. Like, if they hear a shotgun, they're like, oh, there must have been a dog. That's
right. Well, and even like
Wilson's at it again.
Even like they got to be the house that people avoid because you have the kid firing rockets, and you know, by all accounts, he has chemicals that probably stink. He has a bunch of animals, or doing whatever he does with the animals, experimenting on animals, like torture. He's Sid from Toy Story, I feel like.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it's like, the rocket might have been the biggest thing, but it wasn't the first thing.
Correct. Yes, so, absolutely.
Yeah. Like the idea of green gas coming out all their windows at some point is not far off.
So Wilby scampers off to Francesca's place, I guess because he looks like her dog, so therefore safety. But strangely, he doesn't tell her about what happened. He just pretends to be the dog. Even though he told the professor he barely knows, and even though she told him about the shape-shifting Borgias in the first place, of all the people, you think she would get it kind of more than the professor because there's a little bit more of a relationship there, but, you know, what do I know?
I thought this was a very weird plot device, like running through her house, being a dog, stealing food.
Yeah.
It is very strange that the buck stops at the new French girl, not going to talk to her.
Absolutely.
In human Willoughby voice.
Yeah. Now, a man that I can only assume is the butler who answered the door earlier, who looks oddly like Otho from Beetlejuice, locks Wilby in dog form into a storage room, and as the dog tries to escape, he falls, somehow triggering his transformation back into human form and sending the real Chiffon teleporting onto the couch where she was last seen. Now, Wilby, in his bid to escape the locked room, just popped the hinges off the door, which is very smart for a 16-year-old. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, oh, I'm just going to take these off and boom, done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
He's a rocket surgeon, so he knows about all this stuff.
Yeah. And he goes and finds his brother, who is apparently very sad that he's human again.
Here, boy. Here, Wilby. Wilby?
What do you think you're doing?
Aw, gee.
What's the matter?
You're not a dog anymore.
You weren't going to put this dog collar on me, weren't you?
Well, you don't have to get sore about it.
Well, forget it, will you? I'm through with that dog business.
You sure?
No.
No. Moochie was going to put a dog collar on his brother and keep him.
He's holding the biggest collar I've ever seen. It's like for a pit bull.
It's a weight belt for weightlifters. It's massive. Yeah. And it's studded, which is kind of cool. Like, it looks kind of punk rock. All right.
I know. Where did he get this thing?
Yeah, cost $17 in 1959. Okay, so Wilby's human again. It just so happens that tonight is the big country club dance. And Mom thinks Wilby ought to date some girls, while Dad is kind of like, what's a girl? Of course, our man Buzz is way ahead of the curve and already has 2 dates lined up.
Oh my God. Buzz is so cool.
Yeah, he is, man. Buzz enlists Wilby to be a 4th wheel on his joint date with Allison and Francesca. And I wonder why these 2 boys are even friends.
Yeah.
Because Allison and Francesca do not know that they are both Buzz's date. Buzz convinces them both to pretend that they're going out with Wilby so Buzz can get in on the action here with these 2 girls.
Yeah, this guy is
crazy.
like Machiavellian. Like he's like telling the girls, oh, he's sad. He doesn't have a date, and then he's like telling Wilby like, hey, I'm trying to be with both of these broads. Could you just like, sit in the back maybe and,
pretend,
let him sit by you. He is moving pieces around this board.
Smart for 16-year-old, man. Why not? He's at the big country club dance. Everybody's there. Parents as well as kids. And we get a good look at Buzz's personality. Now, turns out he's kind of a shithead, and he wants each girl to make Wilby feel special by asking them to dance. He's really trying to pull off this classic 2-date maneuver, and it honestly kind of works. Like, it's working pretty good.
Yes.
Side note, the band that's playing, it's a live band. It's like half children under the age of 10, all on the horn section. It's very, very weird. They're very young and very good.
Well, yeah. And Wilson is out there on the floor, like really cutting it up. Like he was very happy to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Which I feel was kind of against his normal personality. Like you haven't seen him like this excited, but he was having a great time.
He's hitting the punch, man. Buzz's big plan, of course, like they all do, ends up blowing up in his face with both girls pestering Wilby to dance, which of course makes Buzz jealous. I mean, this is how the classic thing works, right? Even Wilby's dad, who's watching from the sidelines, is surprised that girls are actually having a good time with Wilby.
Me too.
It's like, wow, that's cool. And honestly, I didn't think that scene would go that direction. But people were enjoying Wilby's company. And if your dad is even going, turns out my son, doesn't wear people's skin. He's a normal person.
Or at least he doesn't give that off. He waits till he gets them back to that big basement.
That's right. Wilby is dancing with Francesca when his brother Moochie sees him start to turn into the dog, all the way from the snack table, which is like across the room.
Oh, yeah.
The lights were low, so nobody else really sees the shaggy hair starting to develop. Not the kid he's dancing with, not the kids around or the adults around them. No, it's the 8-year-old boy all the way across the room trying to eat some free food who notices.
Well, because they turned down the lights to do the Paul Revere. Do you know anything about what he goes? Now, everyone, the Paul Revere. Okay. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, man.
Apparently, we turned the lights down to do it. It's very weird.
Well, then someone stands up on the mantle and holds one lantern or two, and then everyone guesses, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. It was very strange.
Moochie runs over to Wilby to let him know what's going on, and Wilby dives into the plants, only to pop out fully transformed again as Chiffon the dog, busting up the party as he tries to leave. We cut to Wilby's family arriving home without Wilby, who again gets left behind without a second thought.
Yeah.
Luckily, since his voice doesn't change when he's a dog, Wilby can call his dad from a payphone and explain away everything, saying he's spending the night at Buzz's and the party was weird and it was fine.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, where did the dog get the penny or however much a payphone cost back then for a phone call? Like, where did he keep that?
Yeah, I don't know. Did he I wonder if he got it from like a fountain. He like had to jump in like a local fountain.
Yeah, they just cut all this. So like, we don't need to know that. Buzz pulls up to Allison's house with Francesca and Allison, of course, but without Wilby, because again, nobody cares. Nobody seems to be concerned about Wilby at all. He's like the definition of a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
Allison leaves in a huff because she's all mad about the dance, and Buzz argues with Francesca. She somehow loses her accent at this point from the rest of the film. She might have even lost it beforehand, but I noticed it in this scene specifically. Her French accent is no longer there from this point to the rest of the film.
Yeah, and I think that it was obviously fake. She's in this
Illinois
modern age.
Yeah.
Oh, this girl would absolutely be on TikTok trying to be an influencer. doing
for
something.
sure, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
She'd be making those voiceover videos about like, oh, I went to this restaurant and we were served blah, blah, blah.
Get ready with me while I learn how to speak a French accent.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that they were just like, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
Even the crew was like, we're sick of this.
We're done. But now, Matt, it's time for bed.
Yes.
Saying goodnight to her dad, Francesca brings Wilby the dog to her father's office. And as she leaves, Wilby stays behind because he overhears an important conversation between shady people and Francesca's dad. And I got a little bit of that for you, too.
What is the meaning of this? You were asked not to come here at night.
It's most urgent, Doctor. I dare not use the phone.
Is anything wrong at the missile plant?
On the contrary, good news. I've been transferred to Section 32.
Section 32. Excellent.
With what I've already given you, this should be all you need.
How soon can you get it here?
Taking all necessary precautions, I say tomorrow night by 8 o'clock.
That means that the complete mechanism of the undersea hydrogen missile will be in our hands.
Yes, sir.
Now we must get it out of the country. Immediately.
I love an undersea hydrogen missile. That's my favorite kind of missile.
Yeah, yeah.
They lock the dog inside the office because they don't want the dog getting out anymore. So Wilby, as a dog, can't do anything with this information. Okay, so Wilby has found out that Francesca's dad is trying to steal military secrets.
I did not see a spy story coming in this.
I know.
I really thought this was going to be a series of like dog mishaps.
And we didn't need it. That's the other thing. Like, it could have been a series of dog mishaps because this movie is like 5 hours long.
Yes.
It feels that way anyway. And I just feel like this is a weird plot. But, here we are. Wilby needs to be a hero, I suppose. So the next morning, Wilby's dad sees his little brother, Moochie, reading a Scrooge McDuck comic book, which I thought was very funny. But he's secretly hiding a small handbook, as you do in the thing, right? Called How to Train Your Dog. And I feel at this point, Wilby's brother is officially labeled a psychopath. He wants to imprison his brother for his own personal enjoyment.
He knows that his brother has a human mind.
Yeah. And a voice.
Yes. And he still wants to run him through the basic training of housebreaking a dog.
Yeah, and he knows that the dog changes from the dog to the brother and back again at will. But you're still gonna assert dominance. Is very, very weird.
I know, he's like rolling up that comic book to hit him on the nose.
Yeah, and he changes. Hey, stop doing that. So Wilby the dog finally escapes Francesca's house, finds his brother, spills the beans to him about the neighborhood spies, everything that's been going on. Yeah. Moochie goes to tell his dad, but of course Wilson doesn't believe him. I mean, who would? So Wilby the dog takes matters into his own paws and finally reveals to hhis dad his shaggy secret. The dog puppet here is very, very good, by the way. And the shock of the reveal that Wilby is actually a dog was so great that his dad faints right there in the chair, just knocks right out.
Love it.
After a little runaround, the butler, I guess, for Francesca, catches Wilby the dog and drags him back to the house. And meanwhile, Moochie gets his dad to go down to the police station and get some help. But of course, they don't believe him. So here's a little bit of Wilson talking to the very fine people at the local police department.
Calm down, Mr. Daniels. I just want to get this thing straight.
Oh.
Now, you say that this information came from your son.
Yes, my older son. He was right there and he heard them talking.
And they knew he was there?
Oh, I'm sure they knew he was there, all right, but...
Well, doesn't that strike you as rather odd, Mr. Daniels, that they'd speak of such confidential matters in front of your son?
Oh, no, it's not odd at all. You see, they probably didn't pay any attention to him. You see, my son happens to be a dog.
Your son is a dog?
Yes. Well, now, don't get me wrong. He's not a dog all the time, just part of the time.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you for coming, Mr. Daniels. We'll look into the matter.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You don't believe me?
Ow! Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I just don't happen to have my shoes on.
I don't know why. That was a thing. That's like a theme throughout the rest of the film where he's like, oh, I just don't have shoes on. Why? Why don't you have shoes on?
My son's a darn good boy.
Yeah, he ate my shoes. So Wilby's back upstairs with Francesca's dad, and just his luck, they start talking about spy stuff again. As he is behind the couch listening, Wilby's dog body fades and he changes back into human form and gets caught yet again. The butler catches him and slaps the dog crap out of this kid. And it looked really hard. And there's no way it will be in the movie. There's no way he grows up normal. There's absolutely no way he's a normal human being after this. Like, just the trauma of the whole dog thing, but then he just gets slapped to Hades. It's wild. Yes. Just popped him one for no reason.
Why he becomes a DA. He's like, I'll do the slapping in the courts.
Yeah, this is my Joker arc, my character arc. So we're back at the police station. Moochie throws Wilson under the bus, saying all this dog stuff is made up, and it's very clear that Moochie is trying to protect Wilby, but also secretly hoping Wilby stays a dog so we can keep him, right?
I love this turn for Moochie.
Yeah, it's kind of good.
His dad just sitting at the edge of the chair.
The edge of Moochie!
Yeah. And the kid stone faces. He's like, I made it all up. Dad's a dang good storyteller.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man. You are Kaiser Soze.
Moochie gets a ride home from the cops, and as he gets out of the car, he happens to see the spy family leaving. So, of course, he does what every 8-year-old boy does. He walks over to the house to look for his brother. And as he enters their house, Wilby is turning back into dog form. This is all very confusing. The movie is a little bit more laid out than this, but all these points I think are important to know what happened. Anyway, Wilby has to chase after Francesca's family and stop the steal, which made me throw up, but whatever. Just saying that. Just as those two are leaving the house, just as Wilby and Moochie are leaving the house, Buzz walks up to the steps to go, talk to Francesca, whatever. They bound out of the house, knock Buzz down. Wilby, the dog, gets into Buzz's hot rod and drives off after the spies. So now we have a sheepdog driving a lowered scraper, right?
Boy, and I'm here for it. It is very cool.
It is very cool. And the shots of the dog driving are so good. They're so good. Yeah. It's A+ filmmaking. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, it's just because you're not going to get that anymore. I'm sorry, but in this modern age, you are not going to get a big old live dog driving any kind of a car. It's all going to be CGI'd to hell.
Yeah.
This was a real tangible dog burning rubber down the road. It looked amazing.
It was great. So Wilby's driving. He screams by the cops who give chase and eventually, cut him off and catch the dog. Officer Hansen puts the dog against the hood and frisks him. Wilby bites him, runs away, steals the cop's car because it's in front of the little hot rod. So, of course, he steals the cop's car, which forces the cops to then chase after their own car in Buzz's hot rod. The whole script is a nightmare and has just way too much going on.
But just Keystone Cops is so good.
It also works somehow.
Yeah. You're not lost in any of this. Like you have what is it, like wacky races going on now. Everyone's traded cars, but you get it. You still understand exactly what's happening.
Oh, for sure. Now, Wilby makes it to the pier where the spies had said they were leaving from and jumps onto the little speedboat as it's pulling away. He's attacking the men on board. Wilby's like up on his hind legs because he's still a dog. He's biting, he's snarling, he's doing whatever. But he somehow ends up in a little bit of a trouble. But Francesca is there. She comes to his aid and, tries to beat on the butler to let the dog go. She's clearly thinking it's Chiffon, her dog, because she doesn't know that Wilby, even transformed, right?
Yeah.
And for all of her heroic efforts, she gets knocked overboard and falls into the water and, passes out or whatever, gets knocked unconscious.
Just when a woman touches water, she faints.
Absolutely. Well, this is 1959. Are you kidding me? Why wouldn't they? Their pencil skirt would be, stained.
I don't know what it is.
Wilby abandons the boat to save Francesca while the police finally somehow figure out where Wilby had driven to and called the harbor master. Now, Wilby drags Francesca to the shore and Buzz meets them there. No adults yet, right? Just 3 kids and a dog.
Yeah.
And because Francesca was unconscious in the water, Buzz begins taking credit for saving her. And I got a little bit of that. That's him slapping her, by the way.
You all right?
Buzz.
There now. Everything's under control.
But how in the world did you get here? The last thing I remembered, Chiffon.
Oh, don't you worry your pretty little head. Old Buzz got here just in the nick of time, that's all.
But Buzz...
Don't thank me. It was nothing. Nothing at all. Hey, Francesca.
Look out, will you, Chiffon? Let go, you silly mudfork! Out! Stop it! Cut it out! Just in the nick of time. A great big hero, are you?
Wilby. Good old Buzz, huh? Right in the nick of time, are you? The great big hero, eh?
Wilby, will you lay off? I don't know what you're talking about. Wilby! I don't know what I'm talking about.
So at that point, Wilby as the dog attacks Buzz because he's had enough. He's done with it. And as they're wrestling, Wilby changes back into human form. And that's what you heard there. But what bugged me out is that when Wilby transforms back into human form, the dog Chiffon shows up at the beach. The dog does not show up back at Francesca's house where he's always shown up. It's now back at the beach somehow.
Yes, very convenient.
Yeah,
isn't
I know.
it?
Yeah, it's very convenient.
This magic is, the Borgias had really convenient magic.
Yes, it was odd. So, I don't know. And even though Chiffon isn't wet or anything, Francesca wakes back up for the second time, thinks that Chiffon really was the dog. And, everything is happy, hunky-dory. The cops come in, they catch the bad guys. I don't even really know if that was shown.
I'm going to tell you, I was about to ask you, how do the actual adults know that these gentlemen were bad guys and to arrest them?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think Wilson says, there they are.
And I think they do something that is illegal for boating. Okay. It's kind of like getting caught on tax evasion.
Oh,
it's
sure.
Like they're going to get caught for illegal boating.
Yes. Right. Well, they were driving on the left side and not the right side of the water, probably.
Yeah, they're going to find their collection of Section 32 items.
That's right. We're wrapping everything up in a nice, neat, mouse-eared package here. That's what's going on. So the cops catch everybody, I think. I don't really know. Chiffon, the real dog Chiffon, gets credit in the papers for saving the girl, and Wilson gets written up about busting the spy ring, even though it was Wilby who did both of those things. So Wilson gets his name in the paper and his picture, and somehow this makes him realize that dogs are okay by him. And the newspaper comes, they want to take a follow-up photo. And so here's a little bit of that interaction, because now Wilson is all on board with dogs.
It was a picture for our Sunday follow-up story, a human interest angle. How your love for dogs made this whole thrilling thing possible.
Oh, fine.
Now, Mr. Daniels, if you'll just sit on the arm of the chair.
Oh,
that's
right
it.
here?
All right, boy. Up in the chair.
Now, just a minute. I will not have that dog up on my good chair with his big dusty feet.
Oh, don't worry about it, honey. A dog can't hurt anything. How about me with my arm around him like this, huh?
Fine. That's fine. Now, how about one with your son?
Oh, well, why not?
Come here, son. No, not you, the little fella.
That's my favorite part, and it goes on and on.
I have a son?
Yeah, he's like, oh,
who?
I have to share the spotlight with my kid? Okay, that's fine.
Well, then also I love that it's Moochie who gets to be in there. Like you said, Wilby did everything, saved Francesca, found out about Section 32.
Yeah.
And then the guy goes, nah, not you.
Yeah, discovered transmutation.
Yeah.
He basically discovered magic. But
yes,
you can't sit here with me and my new dog. So Buzz is there because of course Buzz is, and Buzz is like, hey, let's go take a walk, Wilby. So they walk around, they give us some nice exposition about how Francesca moved back to France and how nice it was of her to give Chiffon to Wilby. So now Wilby owns the dog. As the two boys finally realize how bad they've treated Allison, they're like, oh, she was really good, and whatever. They look up and suddenly see Allison leaving the house because they're across the street from Wilby's. So they go, hey, Allison, what's going on? They also realize that now Francesca is gone, they can pay attention to Allison. So top, S tier girlfriend is gone. We're going A tier with Francesca or with Allison.
Yeah, no, Allison's getting a skyrocket push now.
Yeah, she's getting a boost in the polls. That's fine. And as they're crossing the street, this big old car skirches up, pulls up right in front of her house and picks her up. The man driving this car has got to be in his 20s. I mean, he's twice her age. He's like, do you know those kids? And she's like, they're just neighborhood children. And that's it. And they go womp, womp, womp. And that's the story.
I know the movie ends with like a 22-year-old guy taking a 16-year-old to ice cream. Good job, 59. You did it.
It was great, man. And that's the Shaggy Dog. That's the story of the Shaggy Dog. Overall, I thought it was great. I got to watch it with my kid, and she loved it, even though she didn't really pay too much attention to it. And I think, overall, for a movie that was made in the 50s, I don't know, it kind of worked. I felt it was a little too long, to be honest with you. I was like halfway through it. I'm like, oh, we got to be wrapping up now. We're an hour in. This has got to be, nope, okay. Okay, we got a whole other hour.
When I saw it, that it was a runtime of like 100, it was like 140 minutes or something, or an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, geez, for real? We're going to talk about a dog for this long? All right.
Yeah. But I think it worked. The acting was surprisingly good. I think the kids did great. Fred McMurray knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, his energy in this movie was unwavering. Like, he put it into every scene, for real.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Let's take a break. We're going to come back, and then I want to dig into the movie. I want to dig into some facts about it. I want to know who was in it, if they've done anything else. I want to know cool, interesting things about it, because this project specifically kind of really did lean on a lot of practical effects that I think were really neat, that are hard to sort of tell if you don't know about them. So let's do that. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back here on Buena Vista Boys talking about the Shaggy Dog. All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. We're back. We're going to jump into a little bit of trivia, a little bit of facts, and cool stuff behind the scenes that happened with the Shaggy Dog, which you might not think anything interesting above and beyond, just the movie was made. But there's actually a lot here, especially for a Disney movie. So, Matt, why don't you take us through some kind of interesting stuff that happened on this movie, and some stuff that we'd be impressed about. Impress me, please.
That's a tall order. All right.
I know. Especially with your shirt on,
Almost any movie, there's more going on than you would ever think. And it's like a movie doesn't just get made and then it's like, all right, well, everything went exactly correct and we're done by. There are so many people who work on these, and there's so many different things that have to come together to make this movie. And so, like, originally this movie was meant to be a TV series for ABC. Walt had made it in a two-parter series. After the station rejected the script, they turned me down flat, said Walt. Now, that's my Walt voice. It's not going to get any better, folks.
It's not good.
I was hopping mad when I went back to the studio, so I called in Bill Walsh and said, let's make a feature of it. But Walt had some sense of a backup plan, and to save money, he would use TV actors who were on summer hiatus that were familiar to audiences, but not superstar actors that would demand over the top billing.
I think that's super smart.
Yes.
What a good idea.
Dude, I'm on board with this. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's like it does feel like TV. I'm not going to lie and say that it absolutely feels like TV, but
well, even the interstitial, the music that leads you from one scene to the next is kind of like the precocious like trill of a wind instrument or something like that, like boo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah. The reason I think it's totally fine and on brand is because since everybody from the Mickey Mouse Club was in this, there is a certain through line to television. So that when you watch this movie, it doesn't feel strange that you're also feels like you're watching TV, because the characters you're watching are people who had been on TV, and the vibe is all and television actors, right? So it's like the vibe is very television. So I don't think it's weird at all. And the fact that they'd all kind of worked together, I think made the movie really cohesive as far as everyone playing off each other. I think it was a really good move.
Yeah, agreed.
So the two parts were going to be aired as part of Walt Disney Presents, but were mashed together at the last minute. Okay, this movie was shot for $1 million and it made $9 million at the box office. Can you believe that?
Walt must feel at this point like a genius, like a movie making Marvel. I mean, that
No,
is
absolutely.
that is so impressive. $1 million made $9 million at the box office.
Because he took television actors and he said, we're going to make a movie about a dog that looks like a mop with no stick. And he goes, I turned $1 million into 9 million. I am untouchable. The movie beat out films like Some Like It Hot and North by Northwest.
And I've seen North by Northwest, I think once. Some Like It Hot, I don't know, but I'm familiar with both of those as like classic movies. I mean, those are, on everybody's list. They're, progressive for the time, but apparently you're never going to get away from a talking dog.
Yeah, geez. I mean, they were both compelling, interesting. They were both in color. I mean, one of them has like famous music in it. The other one is Alfred Hitchcock. And really, this dog came in black and white, shot like TV, and just obliterated these movies. I love it. What I liked about this movie right away when I saw it is that it was shot on Universal Studios' famous Colonial Street. So this street is in the back lot of Universal Studios, and everyone now would know it from Desperate Housewives. It's Wisteria Lane.
Okay.
But back in the day, one of the original houses was used for Leave It to Beaver. It wasn't Willoughby's house, which I looked up. Somebody thought that house was Leave It to Beaver's, but it wasn't, because they have like a flat front to their home.
Okay.
And then one of the other homes across the street was the Munsters house.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And then the entire movie of The Burbs was filmed on
there.
Colonial Street. Yeah. And,
that's crazy.
and that movie didn't leave that street. So everything was shot in those houses in there. And I love that back lot. And so it was really cool to see that it was being used, even back in 59. That was awesome. In order for a talking dog to look believable, so we talked about this, that the dialogue was written in afterwards to match the mouth movements on the dog.
Yeah. Incredible.
Great work. I don't know who came up with it, but double their salary. I think they're like, yeah, we're just going to have the dog move his mouth, and then we'll just get
figure it out later.
Storyline around it. Fix it in post.
It is almost like guerrilla filmmaking at that point. We're like, I don't know that the dog is really going to be able to do this. We eat the beef jerky. Who knows? The dog isn't talking the way the lines are written. So shoot the dog doing it. Do the reverse. We'll figure it out later.
Oh, absolutely. Because what are they going to do? Like, if it doesn't work, they'll just go back in and they'll just do reshoots with a puppet, and they'll eat it. They'll figure it out.
Which they kind of did. I mean, you can see in some of the shots where there's green screen. So they're definitely pickups or reshoots or something like that, where like they could maybe get back into the set at Universal. So they just go in Walt Disney Studios, drop a green screen, and then it's probably a blue screen or whatever, and then and that's it.
So the driving lessons, I thought this was great when I was reading about it. The notes here are fantastic. The driving lessons first started in a wheelbarrow and then into a flat 4-wheeled platform to get Sam used to the motion that the car was going to give. And he then moved into a specially designed hot rod. The stuntman, Kerry Lofton, was the real driver of the hot rod. So sorry, everybody, the dog didn't get trained in driving a car. That would have been my dream, but whatever.
Imagine waiting in line at the DMV and there's a dog behind you.
Got to keep taking his picture. His hair is hanging in his eyes too far.
You blinked.
So then he was hiding underneath the hot rod. There was a metal cutaway in the front of the dashboard, right through the hood. And I was looking for it when he was driving. When you see I was trying to look for like a little piece of metal missing. I couldn't find it. So they did a great job. So he was able to see through that little piece of metal. So for night shooting, a series of lights on the right-hand side of the road was used so Kerry could follow the road. Otherwise, we're having, oh man, that's gonna get ugly.
Yeah.
Lofton's steering wheel was synchronized with the steering wheel Sam used, so it looked like Sam was driving. Oh God, what a great detail. You know what? You didn't have to. I wasn't looking.
Right.
But I love that they did it.
I was. That's for sure.
A special bucket seat was made for Sam to sit in, and hair-covered mittens were placed on the steering wheel for Sam to slide his paws in. Oh my gosh.
That to me is probably the best piece of information I could have ever heard about this. Where,
yes.
So, and watching that scene again, that sequence again, you can, I don't want to say you can tell, but because when you watch it the first time, there's the dog sitting upright and its paws are on the steering wheel and it's just kind of like moving. The steering wheel's moving, but like, you know, his shoulders aren't, or he's not leaning in or whatever. So it looks a little funky, but it still looks believable. But then you read about the furry, you know, mittens, and then you watch it again. You're like, okay, I can sort of see because the paws look a little too long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I get it. But quick and dirty still works great, man. Yeah.
They made that seatbelt. They gave him a seatbelt. He was wearing a seatbelt, but it was covered in fur that matched his fur, so you couldn't see it.
I love that, dude.
Director Arthur Vitarelli. The dog looked over the top of the windshield and out the side. It looked like he was really driving.
And I take that quote to mean like they didn't have to coax him or move him or whatever. Like that's the dog just looking around, but never looking behind, just straight ahead and then leaning out a little bit like it did. It looked natural.
Yeah.
Looked great.
Well, and how amazing is that for a dog? Because like dogs love sticking their head out the window. So think about it. You get your dog that you get paid all day to put your head in the wind. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. William Kohler, over the years, supplied and trained animals for many motion pictures, including Disney studio films. The film was the beginning of Kohler's association with working with animals on Disney films, such as The Incredible Journey, 1963, Big Red, 1962, my favorite, That Darn Cat, and The Ugly Dachshund, 1966. Kohler was impressed with Sam, who scored high in his graduation exercises after only 9 weeks of training. Wow, we got ourselves a real brainiac here.
Oh, yeah.
Kohler's partner, Hal Driscoll, learned about a year later that the Disney studio was looking for a sheepdog for its next film. Kohler and Driscoll operated a firm called Allied Movie Dogs that operated out of 2 kennels, one in the San Fernando Valley that was close to the movie studio, and another in Ontario, California, that was used for training because of all the distracting sights and sounds of the industry and agriculture nearby.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Desensitize the dog to all that kind of stuff.
Walt Disney Productions had viewed more than 20 English sheepdogs for the title role. This feels a lot like what happened with Cujo. Cujo, they used like 12 dogs.
Oh, geez.
To film that movie. In the role, in a picture called The Shaggy Dog, Kohler recalls in 1979, each of them had exhibited the contemporary curse of the breed, degrees of neurosis that varied from geared and dingy.
Whatever that means.
What's geared mean?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
To cowardly and emotionally unstable. That's an actor for you.
So he's talking about me.
It appeared that the dearth of qualified candidates would set the stage for Sam, who qualified in temperament and had novice obedience training.
So he really was a remarkable dog.
Yeah.
So apparently, from what I gather, Old English sheepdogs are just terrible and they have no idea what's going on. Maybe, you know, it shouldn't be in front of the kids. Yeah. And I wonder if at some point the casting director's like, look, dudes, whoever the dudes are and the producers, like, maybe it shouldn't be this dog because they can't they can't do it. It's like making a Chihuahua, you know, be a Great Dane. You just can't do it. But then they found Sam.
So Sam only appears in this one movie. He became an instant star. He won the 1960 Patsy, which is a Picture Animal Top Star of the Year award.
Of course, why not?
Honors and benefits, all at the age of
whatever.
Yeah. From the American Humane Society in his performance. His paw prints were immortalized in cement in the courtyard of the Burbank Animal Shelter.
That's nice. I think it's cute. That's good, man.
So Disney producer Bill Walsh mused that The Shaggy Dog was the direct inspiration for the TV show My Three Sons. And Walsh said, same kids, same dog, and Fred McMurray. And that's true.
I love this.
Because it is amazing that Fred McMurray, not right after this, but pretty close to right after this, went on to have that great stint on My Three Sons.
Yeah.
Wonderful theme song. It's one of my favorites. like we said earlier, Paul Frees not only does a narration for this movie, which just sets the movie up great. I love it. But he actually is an actor in this movie. He has a rare on-screen appearance in this film for which he received no on-screen credit. Very secretive. Love it. As Dr. J.W. Galvin, a psychiatrist who examines Wilby's father. Like, there's that scene where he's trying to tell the police about Section 32.
Yeah.
And the only way he knows about it is because a dog told him. That doesn't go over very well. Most grown men don't think that their sons are dogs.
You've gained access to certain secret information. Now, fearful of the consequences, you transfer the burden of guilt to your second self. A submerged second identity known only to you.
What second identity?
Now, this is very important, Mr. Daniels. Do you often visualize yourself as a dog?
What?
Now, let's be honest. Do you often stand in front of your shaving mirror, and instead of your own face, you see a shiny, moist, black shoe-button nose? A strong, intelligent head?
No.
Right. And what struck me about it was like, I wasn't even sure they were at the police station because the cop opens his drawer, pushes a button, and then there's a psychologist and 2 FBI agents or something like that standing there. And it's like, what's going on? Where are we right now?
And the thing is, I don't know how accessible the FBI was in the 50s, but you're right. It doesn't seem like they just went to the police station. They had way too much staff. They were way too competent.
Yeah.
But so I thought that was interesting because I really had never seen Paul Frees's face. Like, I've heard some other things like that great, audio footage of him recording the Haunted Mansion, all those outtakes that he does.
Yeah.
Those are golden. His voice is so good. And so it's funny to see him with his glasses and his mustache. And then that voice is coming out of him. Because I thought he looked more like a guy who, like, you know, hosts a game show or like
for sure
sells fancy dog food.
Yeah.
It was great to have him in this movie in an actual acting role. Okay. And the film, as we said, was shot in black and white, which seems like a step backwards for Walt. He was, after all, a technologically forward kind of guy, but the studio couldn't get around the fact that the special effects of Wilby's transforming just didn't look great in color. So black and white was chosen in order to hide some of those flaws within the gray scale.
Ah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Plus, since it was never meant for theaters and only for TV, it was shot with a different camera system that didn't exactly give the audience the depth and detail you'd expect.
Okay.
Like we said.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes a lot of sense. Both of those things make a ton of sense. And it works somehow.
No, and I would have done it too. I think that's the call I would have made because, you know, you're already hiring TV actors. You know, they've already been on shows that are black and white. This is not weird for an audience to see these characters in black and white.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. And if it can help with all of that extra special effects to sell it, great. The Shaggy Dog performed so well, no pun intended, that it kicked off a wave of those sort of low effort, mildly supernatural films where there's a slight whiff of something strange going on. More transformation stuff like that. My Mother the Car.
Right. My Car the Mother.
Yes. This film was written by Bill Marsh, who went on to write Mary Poppins, among other Disney hits.
Sheesh.
And it's funny, when I found out that he had written Mary Poppins, I watched the movie the first time. And then I found out that he'd written Mary Poppins. And then immediately I was like, this guy really likes shaking living rooms. Like,
that's true.
He made 2 movies where he makes houses shake and everyone has to catch stuff. I don't know why. That's a bit he really likes.
I mean, he lives in California, presumably. That's just what happens here.
So Lily Hayward, who also received a screenplay credit for this movie, also wrote New Adventures of Spin and Marty and episodes of the Mickey Mouse Club. And the only reason I put that in here is, one, it's like, you know, I don't know how often like women were getting writing credits in 59. And so that was kind of cool to see. I really don't know how often that was happening. But then also I thought that was cool that she had already previously written for most of these actors.
Wow.
So there was a nice flow through. And so it was probably easy to write for these guys because she'd already worked with them.
Yeah. It was probably a pretty easy set as children to kind of get used to.
Yeah. So this is something I thought was interesting. It's the soundtrack writer for this movie, Hazel Gill George, moved to Los Angeles in 1929. And after completing nursing school, was hired by Walt Disney Studios. Walt Disney received a fairly serious neck injury in a polo game in 1938, as you do.
Oh, yeah. Common man.
No, and she helped nurse him back to health.
Wow.
Disney then made her his personal nurse, and she soon became his confidant.
God.
And then, right?
I read that as a fair, but that's just me. I mean, this is the thing about Walt, is that if he thinks that you have a talent for a thing, he'll just throw you in the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, Exitentio, he was like a set guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, I think you could write a song. Why don't you write a song? I've never written a song before, Walter. That's fine. I bet you could do it. And then he wrote Grim Grinning Ghosts.
Right? Why don't you write a script about pirates and what they do, what they get up to?
Why don't you just figure this out? Why don't you just write a bunch of songs? What am I, just a nurse? No. I have the feel, the beat in me. Let me write music.
No, and it's like, I don't even know, how did the conversation get to this from being a nurse? Like,
right.
I don't understand it. But yeah, then after that, when he launched the Mickey Mouse Club, he hired Hazel to help write songs for the show under the name Gill George. So now I don't exactly know why she had to be credited Gill.
I would bet it's what you were saying a little bit ago. How often are women getting not only credit, but opportunities? You know what I mean?
Yes. I don't know exactly what ended up having to happen there to, because people were going to see her at some point, right?
True, yeah.
So, but she wrote and co-wrote more than 90 songs for the series. And in addition to penning songs for such Disney films as The Light in the Forest, Tonka, and Old Yeller.
Wow.
So it's like she has like another connection. Like a lot of the people in this movie have connections to other projects where they work together on all these other things.
Yeah.
It's an interesting family.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, after this movie came out, which happens, all the time.
Yeah.
A trend happens, and pretty much nobody owned an English sheepdog in 1959. And then when this movie came out and it was such a big hit, it sent breed registrations through the roof at the American Kennel Club for, this kind of dog.
It sounds a lot like Paris Hilton and the purse dogs, the little chihuahuas. Like those weren't popular, and Paris Hilton had them, and now everyone had them. They were everywhere.
Yes, everyone needed a shivering rat all of a sudden.
That's right.
So there was just a couple of things that when I was watching this movie, that I thought was interesting. I want to go back to Professor Plumcott, because this guy just sticks in my mind.
Do it.
The actor Cecil Kellaway. In this movie, when you watch it, you're going to get Burgess Meredith vibes real bad off this guy.
Absolutely.
Especially a character that Burgess Meredith played in The Twilight Zone, that Time Enough at Last, where he breaks his glasses.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I immediately thought of that. And then I looked up this actor, and Professor Plumcott was in 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone. And in season 4, the second episode that he's in, he plays a character named Burgess.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, man. Because in the first season, he's in an episode where he plays the caretaker of an asteroid that is a really, really fancy cemetery.
Okay.
It's very, very weird.
Sounds
very weird.
Right.
And I can't remember the second one. The season 4 one, it's called Passage of the Lady Anne. I don't know what happens in the episode. I was just impressed that his name was Burgess in it. Also, when Buzz is going to take the ladies out, right?
Yeah.
And he's convincing Wilby to go along with this plot. He asks Wilby for $1 for gas because he's been asking him for money this whole time. And gas in 1959 was roughly 31 cents.
God.
So he was gonna fill his tank in that hot rod.
Well, yeah, he needed it for sure, man. Well, and it's funny because in the beginning when the boys are talking and then Francesca pulls up, Wilby's like, hey, how about that $7 that you borrowed from me? And Buzz is like, but I got to take Allison out. $7. I would never.
$7.
Even now, let my friend borrow $7.
Not even literally today and today's $7 money.
That's too much money.
Kiss my ass.
Yeah,
sorry, man.
Absolutely.
Get a job. But it's funny because we did the calculations on that. It came out to like $73 in 1959 spending money.
Can you imagine?
Well, and where did he even get that money? He stopped his paper route 2 years ago. Wilby didn't have a job anymore.
No, he's selling research lab rats or whatever. Yeah, he's buying chemicals. He's buying rocket ship parts.
I know.
Funding Buzz's, hormones.
What did he call it? He goes, he said, I am sick of funding your romances.
Yeah, just very, very, I don't know, classically what someone would say. Your romances.
I'm like, okay, well, that line is why you don't have a girl because you talk like that. No, but the guy who played Buzz, so Tim Constantini, I was watching this really interesting, this very short documentary with cast members from the Shaggy Dog.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that when he was on set driving that car, he would actually just floor it and rip that thing up. Because he was a car guy. He was interested in cars.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't tell anyone what he was going to do. And he would just hit the gas and rip that thing. So in the movie, that's all him.
Oh, all driving around and just...
Yeah. So when he does those hot corners and peels out and kind of fishtails like out of the neighborhood, that's 100% him just laying it on.
Dude, can you imagine living in the neighborhood? Between that kid and then the rockets flying around and then the guy shooting, there's no way. Property values would
Allison
sink.
ends up with that handsome guy who also drives like a maniac. Like he just rolls up fast too.
Oh yeah. Leans on the horn, skirts out. Well, it's funny you say he's handsome because I got that vibe too, but we actually never see his face. Just see the back of his head, and you can tell that he's 42 years old.
Yeah, he does.
One thing I wanted to note real fast, because again, this is part of the reason why I wanted to do the show, is I like digging around for stuff, for facts, and just kind of weird information. So there's a point where the rocket, back at the beginning of the movie, where the rocket is launching through the roof. The family's on the outside. They've all been safely rescued. The rocket tears through the roof and you hear the sound, whatever. So I looked up that sound effect, or I found where that sound effect is from somehow, just in my research. And it is a classic from the Hanna-Barbera sound ideas.
What?
So here's the sound effect. And so in the movie, they lace it in with like a little rocket blast, but you go back, it is this. Okay, as the rocket tears through. That was recorded in the 1930s, created by someone called Jimmy McDonald. And it was first debuted in 1937 with a short called Magician Mickey. And then since then, it has been on such TV shows as The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, the all-new Popeye Hour, America's Funniest Home Videos, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Bobby's World, Count Duckula, Danger Mouse, DuckTales, Garfield and Friends, Muppet Babies, Johnny Quest, and on and on and on. Robot Chicken, Rocco's Modern Life. The same exact thing. TV specials, Snoopy, a couple of Betty Boop things. It's been in 101 Dalmatians, Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Aristocats, Black Cauldron, Daffy Duck's movie, Fantastic Island, The Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, The Love Bug, on and on and on and on and on through like 1987. I think is the last thing that I could see where it has been. It's been in PlayStation games like Dexter's Laboratory. So this sound effect from 1930s has been run through the mill even through the late 80s. I just found that really, really fascinating. I don't know why. Small things like that really, I don't know. I enjoy that a lot.
That sounds like it is like the Wilhelm scream of falling into boxes.
Yes, I think it is too. Apparently, now I'm just reading from a website. It was originally a Disney sound effect used in various movies and shorts from Walt Disney Productions. It debuted in the 1937 Disney cartoon Magician Mickey before Hanna-Barbera picked it up in 1959.
So Hanna-Barbera didn't produce it.
They didn't produce it.
They just used it.
Right.
Okay.
Apparently after this. So it was a Disney thing. Hanna-Barbera owns it. And that's it.
What is if you have Ricochet Rabbit falling off a building?
That's it. This is it.
You know what to use.
All right, everybody. That's all we have for today. That was the Shaggy Dog. This has been the Buena Vista Boys, and we will see you next time with the next live-action Disney movie.